And now, ladies and gentlemen, yes, that's right, Elvis Presley.
Ed Sullivan publicly declared that Elvis Presley would never set foot on his stage, and for a while, he meant every word of it. The Ed Sullivan Show was the most watched variety program on American television, the place where careers were cemented in a single Sunday night and where tens of millions of families gathered around the set every week. By 1956, Elvis had become a cultural flashpoint. His uninhibited stage presence and hip-swiveling performances had earned him the nickname Elvis the Pelvis and put him in the crosshairs of parents, clergy, and moral watchdogs across the country. Sullivan wanted nothing to do with the controversy. What followed between these two men is a story of rejection, money, very public censorship, and a wound that Elvis never quite forgot, making it one of the most compelling behind-the-scenes dramas in early rock and roll history. Sound off in the comments now and tell us, do you think Sullivan censored Elvis because he genuinely believed it was wrong, or was the whole thing just a ratings play? Sullivan slams the door.
Oh, I loved it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, don't thank you, ma'am, me. Oh, you cute thing, you.
Let go, you. That's my girl. Oh,
He doesn't want to let go.
I said let go. I'm not holding her.
Take it easy, partner. There's enough for both of you.
Oh, is that so?
There's no reason for a fight.
By the middle of 1956, Elvis Presley was impossible to ignore. His manager, Colonel Tom Parker, had spent less than a year turning a regional sensation into a national phenomenon. Parker had secured Elvis a record deal with RCA Victor, booked him on nationally televised programs, including the Dorsey Brothers Stage Show and the Milton Berle Show, and arranged a film contract with a Hollywood studio. The momentum was real, and it was building fast. Ed Sullivan was not impressed. To Sullivan and much of mainstream America, Elvis was vulgar. The gyrating hips, the loose physicality, the screaming teenage audiences all struck him as something that had no place on respectable television. Sullivan made his position public. He stated clearly that Elvis Presley would never appear on The Ed Sullivan Show. For a 21-year-old from Tupelo, Mississippi, who was still working his way toward mainstream acceptance, that rejection landed hard. People close to Elvis later confirmed that Sullivan's words genuinely hurt him. What Sullivan failed to anticipate was how quickly his principled stance would be tested by the ratings. When the numbers spoke louder.
I got you a very cute little hound dog right here. And away you go. Who's that?
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog.
Colonel Parker, however, was not the type to let a good moment of leverage pass. Standard Sullivan appearance fees had been around $5,000. Parker drove that number past $16,000 per show for Elvis, the highest fee Sullivan had paid any single act up to that point. Gordon Stoker of the Jordanaires, the gospel vocal group that regularly performed with Elvis, offered a look into how Elvis felt about all of it. Quote, Elvis was hurt by what Sullivan had said about him, Stoker recalled, but he knew nothing was as big as the Sullivan Show. We all wanted it. Elvis accepted the booking. He took the money and the platform, but the memory of Sullivan's public dismissal was not something he simply shook off. 3 shows, careful cameras.
You know I can be found sitting home all alone. If you can't come around, at least please telephone.
Elvis's first Sullivan appearance on September 9th, 1956, came with unusual circumstances on both sides of the camera. He was in Hollywood filming Love Me Tender, so he performed from a CBS studio in Los Angeles while the main show aired in New York. Sullivan himself was absent, having been hurt in a car accident, and actor Charles Lawton filled in as host. When Elvis stepped up to the microphone, he addressed the audience with genuine emotion, calling the moment, quote, probably the greatest honor of his life. 60 million people watched that night, a television record that would hold for 8 years until the Beatles arrived on the same show. During those first 2 appearances, the cameras did not strictly avoid Elvis's lower half. Full-body shots appeared occasionally during songs like Ready Teddy and Hound Dog, though close-ups were far more frequent. The production was clearly cautious, not wanting to linger on anything that might generate complaints. The second appearance on October 28th followed a similar pattern. There was careful, deliberate camera direction throughout, but the most formal and most controversial decision was still ahead. The waist-up rule. By the time Elvis arrived for his third and final appearance on January 6, 1957, the decision had already been made at the network level. Elvis would be filmed from the waist up, period. Sullivan later called it a compromise. After the first two appearances, he had reportedly received around 70,000 letters from viewers, 40,000 expressing displeasure about Elvis's movements and 30,000 expressing support. Elvis's drummer, DJ Fontana, had a sharply different read on the whole arrangement. Fontana said plainly that the censorship was a publicity stunt designed to drive viewership. Whatever drove the decision, the framing was tight all night. Elvis performed Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel, Too Much, When My Blue Moon Turns to Gold Again, and closed with Peace in the Valley, shot from the chest up for most of the broadcast. It's worth noting that Sullivan's granddaughter has since stated that the censorship decision actually originated with CBS network executives and not with Sullivan personally. The network's standards and practices team attended rehearsals and had the final say over what could air live. The final night.
Mr. Sullivan, we know that somewhere out there that you're looking at, and all the boys and myself and everybody out here are looking forward to seeing you back on television. And we'll be seeing you October the 28th in New York. We'll be back on your show again.
What did somebody say? Music hath charms to soothe the savage breast.
What rarely gets discussed about that third appearance is what Elvis did beyond the censorship. He dedicated Peace in the Valley to the people of Hungary, who were still recovering from the Soviet crackdown following the 1956 uprising. Elvis and Colonel Parker had decided he should use the platform to show support for Hungary's cause. Sullivan joined Elvis on stage and personally asked the television audience to donate to Hungarian relief efforts. At the end of the show, Sullivan turned to the camera and praised Elvis in terms that few people expected. He said, quote, "I wanted to say to Elvis Presley and the country that this is a real, decent, fine boy, and wherever you go, Elvis, we want to say we've never had a pleasanter experience on our show with a big name than we've had with you." The compliment was genuine, but Elvis never came back. Colonel Parker had already pushed his appearance fee to $300,000 for any future multi-show deal, effectively removing Elvis from the live television circuit. Elvis did not return to live TV until 1960, when he was paid $125,000 for appearing less than 10 minutes on The Frank Sinatra Show. The Ed Sullivan chapter was closed, and it had not ended on entirely comfortable terms for anyone involved. Now it's time to hear from you. We put the question to you at the top, but we want more of your thoughts below. Was Sullivan the villain in this story, or just a man caught between a changing culture and a nervous network? Let us know in the comments section below.